mega masterminds. So please make sure to leave your mic on mute. Make sure that we can hear our presenters here. If you have a question, feel free to throw it in that chat box. If our presenters invite you to participate in the session and to open up your mics, you can do it at that point as well. If you begin to have any audio issues while you're in the class today, recommend that you try leaving the room to see if that will reset your audio and then come back in. If that doesn't work, we recommend leaving the world and trying to come back in. If that still doesn't work, you can always listen in utilizing our EXP Intercom app, or you can try going to our tech support outpost where they can help you there as well. Before the end of this session, we will be posting a link to our survey. So if you love this session today, you want to give some love to these amazing hosts and presenters, make sure to click on that link. We're going to put it right there in the chat box. All right, folks, almost ready to turn it over to you. But before I do, I just want to thank all of you for coming on stage today. I have had the great pleasure of working with Dawn and with Dr. A to get them here today. It has been an absolute pleasure and honor getting to know both of them and getting to work with them a little more intimately. So I'm super excited to have you here today. Thank you so much for everything that you do. Dawn, thank you for coming in and hosting so many of our Excel sessions. You are just such an amazing agent, such an amazing presence. Our agents are so lucky to have you and to have now this amazing camera.
Hey, Candace, thank you so much. I appreciate that. Yeah, can you hear me okay? Yeah, it's great. Absolutely. Well, we are excited to be here, and I think it's amazing that this session is happening, that not this session, but this whole summit is happening. It's pretty amazing to watch what's going on, and so happy to have so many of you in the session today. So I want to introduce you to what we're going to be doing. Those of you that were just here a few minutes ago got a chance to meet Dr. A, as he calls himself, Dr. Michael Abelson. Michael and I have known each other for a good many years, and he is an expert in the DISC and assessments and profiles and things that are around motives and so many things that are related to human behavior. And of course, today we're going to use that information as it pertains to connecting with people and then getting the listing. So how do we use DISC and what we know about people to land the listing more often? How do we use DISC and what we know about people, the people we're going to be presenting to use marketing in an effective way to really launch our listing presentations into proper fashion. So all of that's going to be covered today. I think it's going to be fascinating to watch how it unfolds. We've also got two other people with us sitting to my right, actually in physical form, my life and love partner and business partner, Allison Gaddy. Allison is 15, almost 16-year realtor now, a pro. She's been successful in 3 different marketplaces and has done incredibly well. Was agent 641 in the EXP world. So that means she goes way back, 5 years, almost 5 years now, when it was just a tiny little company and she was on blind faith and had the foresight to see it. And so she's here with us today. She's got a great listing presentation we're going to talk about. And we've also got Shannon Pyatt. And Shannon, a short-term friend. We've actually only known each other for about a year, but we had a chance to work together about a year ago on a project up in Dallas. And some of you may know Shannon because a year ago, Glenn Sanford put out the challenge to have the best listing presentation. He wanted to make sure that he got all the talented people in the company to throw in their listing presentation, and he offered a $5,000 award, if you will, for the winner, and Shannon was the winner. So we asked Shannon to be involved with us to go through some of that. Now, the focus is not necessarily the listing presentation itself, but how we utilize DISC. So we're going to tap into his presentation. We're going to tap into Allison's presentation. And ironically, Dr. A, we have 4 Ds on stage, what I'm pretty sure is 4 high Ds on stage. I was thinking how funny it would have been if we could have got a D, an I, and an S and a C, but then we probably wouldn't have been on stage. So here we are doing our fun stuff. Hey guys, we're super excited to have all your comments and all of your questions. We will make time. The way we've structured it, we will have time for questions. And we're going to be asking Dr. A some things along the way. Each of us will be contributing in our own way because we have vastly different experience levels in different ways. And so we want to make sure that you guys get the benefit of all that because, again, knowledge of the disc is meaningless unless you can apply it. And that's the real key. And Dr. A has made a lifestyle around that. He's been a consultant and coach to a lot of people. I don't know if you actually consider yourself a coach, but a consultant to a lot of people. And I know that he's been part of many of the big companies and worked with Dave Knorr, the president of our company, in another firm. And so, Dr. A, we're happy to have you here today. Allison, happy to have you here today. And Shannon, we're glad to have you here. So let's get to work, guys and gal. Let's see, what? Woohoo! Okay, that's it. I love it. We got a high I, high D. Yeah, I think we got a lot of high D, high I's on the stage. Really, I think is what we got. All right, so let's go to work. The point of today was really about how do we get to the listing presentation. Michael, I'd love to have you go through and kind of set up the disc, because there are people that were in here earlier, and some of this will be a little bit repetitive, but I know that it never hurts when you're trying to learn the system to really understand it. And if you'll go through that, that'll kind of set up the rest of our time together.
And yes, somebody said my screen said Allison is speaking. It's because we're actually physically next to each other and our avatars, so we're just using one microphone. So
the bubble is over her head.
He's channeling his voice through me.
I don't sound like Allison. Michael, tell us about the disc and take us into just the short course on the disc as it pertains to this program today to set up the listing.
All right, thanks, Don. And it is a pleasure to be here for, second session in a row. This is awesome. I assume some of the people here were here at the last session, and I assume that some of them were not. So what I'm going to focus on is a number of things that you should keep in mind to try to figure out what DIS or C style the person is who you want to get the listing from. And Allison is going to be, and Shannon is going to be looking at the specifics that go here. So they might be interrupting me, I might be interrupting me, and that's fine. All right, but let's get moving. So Shannon, if you could put the first, there you go. All right, now what we have is a whole bunch of slides. I'm not going to go through everything in the slide because that's going to be really boring. All right, I'm fine with you taking screenshots of it so you can have this, but we're going to focus on some important aspects of different things regarding the disc and the person who you're looking at. All right, so I have a whole bunch of things here that you can use to figure out if they're a D, I, S, or C, okay? And a whole bunch of stuff that you should do once you figure out they're a D, I, S, or C. And then again, Shannon and Allison are going to do the technical stuff, and Don's going to be in regarding how to use this for marketing. So that's where each of us has a piece. So let me get moving with this. All right, so there are a number of things that you can keep in mind when it comes to identifying whether they're DIS or C. If you were in the last session, I gave you some individuals to think about. So I'm going to just share those individuals as we go through the beginning area here, so you can either write them down or refresh your memory on them. All right, the D that I used was Matt Damon, okay, in the Bourne Effect and all his different Bourne movies, and Margaret Thatcher, who was referred to as the Iron Lady, as Prime Minister, the first woman Prime Minister of Great Britain. But anyhow, so what happens with the D, okay, when they're under stress, they become very impatient. Right? The example I gave last time was when you're in traffic and the D is going to take the first exit off because they have to keep moving. So Ds are typically very impatient when it comes to what's happening. So if your person is impatient, they might be a D. If they're an I, the examples I used was Jim Carrey and Dolly Parton. All right, and so the I under stress is likely going to be disorganized. So when they talk, they're going to be going in a whole bunch of different areas all at the same time. Okay, the S that I used was John Denver and Barbara Bush. Okay, and what happens with the S under stress is they become somewhat possessive, not so much of material things, but they become possessive more of relationships. Okay, so they start try to draw people in. And finally, under stress, what happens with the C and the examples I used there was Jim Carson and Sheldon in The Big Bang Theory and Einstein, and if you're a Trekkie like I am, Dr. Spock. But anyhow, they become critical. and they start asking questions. Just think of Sheldon, okay, in the Big Bang Theory, where he's always critical of other things that are going on. Now, how do they deal with emotion, which is the next one there? That's the D is going to express their anger. The I is going to express their optimism. Okay, the S, you're going to have a hard time reading what their emotion is. And the C, they're most concerned about this notion of fear. Now, what is their style of organization? The D's are efficient, but not neat. So don't waste the D's time, all right? The D will be really sensitive about time. And again, the style for organization regarding the I's is they're just disorganized. The S's are systematic, but they appear to be sloppy. So they might not be the best dressed person, okay? Or they might come across as being, really, really well kept, where every blade in their hair is where it's supposed to be. And what happens with the C is perfectly organized. You might remember the old way that they used to show engineers, where they have all these pens and pencils, in their pocket, or you walk into their office and everything on their desk is exactly where it's supposed to be. All right, let's go to the next slide. All right, and let's look at some other things that you can think of that will help you identify the different styles. All right, gesture-wise, the D's are big gestures. Well, everything is big in D's, not just, they don't have to be just from Texas, okay, but big gestures. What happens with the I's? Facial expression. Think of Jim Carrey and in The Mask or different acts that he plays. All right, the S is small hand gestures. You're not going to see a whole bunch of lot, but you'll see some small hand gestures. And what happens with the C is they're very reserved, where there aren't many gestures, period. Okay, right. Jewelry wise, and this is a fun one because the D is going to be wearing something power wise. So if you're walking in and the guy's wearing a Rolex watch, chances are they're a D. Okay, the I's like shiny stuff. So they might be wearing a necklace. So they might have a gold, band around their neck. Okay, or they might have this, real glossy type of ring. All right. The jewelry for the S, it has meaning to that. So it might be a little jewel piece where it has, little kids, on it or something like that. Or it has some sentimental meaning, so you can ask them, when you're sitting at the table with them, oh, that's a really pretty bracelet. Where did you get that? Oh, that was my grandmother's. Okay, so there are things like that you can think of. Okay, and also the C's, again, are very, very efficient, and don't be surprised if they don't wear jewelry. They might be wearing an iWatch, okay, or an Apple Watch, but they're going to be typically efficient. Writing emails, D's to the point, I's wordy, right? S's long with a lot of information, and C's are going to be to the point with a lot of information. Typically, a D or a C are going to use a lot of bullets. All right, let's go to the next slide. Right, when talking on the phone, okay, when talking to others, okay, and when they're talking. Let's look at all three of these at the same time, and that's what we're going to look at, on this particular slide, because it's real interesting to figure out what's going on with that. All right, with the D's, they're to the point. There's not much chat. They're going to be focused on results. All right, they're going to be very direct. Don't be surprised if they interrupt you. Don't be surprised if they finish your sentence if you pause for a second or two. It's a typical D type behavior, right?
What'd you say, Michael? Hey,
Yes.
Michael, I'm interrupting you. I just wanted to interrupt just because I'm a D.
Okay, I don't care, Don. I'm moving forward. Okay, so they're very fast talking. So sometimes people think that I'm talking too quickly. All right, I'll stop being obnoxious. Don, did you have a question, or did you just want to make a point? You just wanted to make a point. Okay.
He was truly making a point, but I really wish you would hurry up.
All right, let's go to the I's, and here you heard, Allison's laugh, okay, because that's typically what you're going to hear from an I. All right. So, but with an I, what are they talking like? Long conversations, voice tone variation. You're going to hear the emotion in their voices, whereas with the C's, it's going to be fairly staid, and the same thing with the S's. All right. Also, they're very verbal and verbose. They like to talk. That's one of the biggest issues you're going to have with the I. They just go on and on and on and on. And another aspect is when they're talking, they're going to be people focused. Don't be surprised if they talk about the people that they know or the people they're familiar with, or a friend of yours if you have some familiarization with them. What do the S's do? They're warm, friendly, okay? They're great listeners. If I actually want to figure somebody out in a group and I'm having difficulty, I'll go to somebody who's an intense S and ask them. They're really good. They like to talk about their family, right? So at the listing table, you can get them talking about the family. They're steady and very easy paced, all right? So they like to do things slower. It's got nothing to do with their level of intelligence, right? There is no evidence that demonstrates that whether you're D, I, S, or C, it has any impact on how bright or smart you are, okay? But they like to do things more slowly and more systematically. That's one of the reasons that SCs are really good administrators. They do things slowly and systematically. All right, what about the Cs with talking? It's little chat. They're direct as far as their questions, and they're very straight line. I mean, you're not going to see much emotion. They're just going to say it and shut up. All right, let's go to the next slide. Moving quickly on this because I want to give you an understanding and a framework for the different styles, but in the same regards, the real proof of this is how Shannon and how Allison use this and how you can use it, marketing wise from Don. All right, the next slide is, okay, now, what do you need to do when you're working with them, right? The first three slides were to help you identify what they're like. All right, now, with the D, buying wise, right? You're going to have quick decisions, right? They're going to have quick decisions, right? Your presentation for the I should be colorful and showy, right? One of the things that I like to say with the presentation is your presentation should be structured so it appeals to whether they're a D, I, S, or C. But what happens in the listing presentation is you want to focus on that part of it that is closer to what their behavioral style is. So in the last session, somebody asked what happens if somebody's balanced. Well, it's great if somebody's balanced because it's kind of hard to go wrong because anything that you would present in a listing presentation may be of interest to them, right? But anyhow, so and what happens with the S? You want to do slow, and the S's are also slow with decisions. So don't be surprised if they spend a lot of time in the house, if you're actually showing them houses, whether it's on the internet or whether it's in person. Okay? And with the C's, don't push them, right? They may be slow as far as making decisions, but ask them, what other detail do you need? All right. And then focus on the detail and then move on. Right? What about talking on the phone? Well, or talking to others. Again, what you should do is you should mirror them. So what's happening with the D is be to the point, don't chit chat, ask for results, and ask them what are they expecting. It's not unusual for them to be more than happy to share with you exactly what's on their mind. I kind of look at it as it's kind of like if somebody gets shot in between the eyes with a rifle. You recoil. But so don't be surprised if you have shots like that from a very, very intense D. Right? Talking wise, again, don't interrupt them. They're probably going to interrupt you. All right. But if you want them to like you, you won't be interrupting them. All right. Eyes. What do you want to do? All right. Their presentation, again, should be colorful, but long conversations. Let them talk. You don't want to be the one who does the talk. Let them do the talking. All right. And as far as what's going on, you should also have voice variation. Okay. Again, mirror them. What about the S's? Right. Be friendly. Be concerned. Ask about the family. With the D's, don't ask about the family. They're going to say that's none of your business. All right. And if they don't say it out loud, they're saying it to themselves. So what you want to do with the S is you want to be warm and friendly, okay? And under organization, I want to just throw this in with the S. You want to be systematic. You want to go through the listing presentation. Tell them what you're going to do and stick to that with the presentation. They will appreciate that. All right, Shannon, let's go to the next slide. All right. Also, look for what you should emphasize with what you're doing with them, and also, how do you deal with challenge, right? These are the two things on this particular slide that I want to focus on. D's, again, results and efficient, all right? You're seeing a trend here, all right? I's, fun, all right? Focus on the experience, all right? Tell me about your house. Tell me about the good times that you've had in the house. If you want to try and get them to buy with you, okay, what will you be looking for in your next house, right? That kind of thing. The S, it's all about trust. Okay, you want to make sure that you don't tell them something and then not deliver on. If there was a problem with getting in the door with the person because somebody on your team made a mistake or you made a mistake, you need to focus on reestablishing that trust. All right, right? And you want to, ask them to describe what others will like, okay, or are like, especially in their family. The conversation should be about the family, should be about the warmth types of things with the house. What kind of things you're looking for in the kitchen. What types of things are you looking for, in the bedroom area? Or what is really good from a listing presentation? What do you think is really good, about the kitchen? Or what are you the most proud about for your entire house? Okay, right? And when it comes to the C's, follow procedures and give them information. They love information. Okay, ask them to do the research or ask them about the data. Again, you can give them a list of things to do before you get there in the listing presentation. They'll love to do that. Don't give the D the list because they won't even do it. Okay, in fact, they will want to know why you think they should be doing anything to prep. It's not them, it's you. Okay, all right. So these are things to keep in mind. All right, let's go to the next slide. Just 2 more slides, and then we'll get into the nitty gritty. Okay. What do the different styles primarily fear? And this is really important because home, for most people, as we all know, is the most expensive investment they'll make in their lives. All right. So there's things that they're going to fear. D is afraid of being taken advantage of. All right. Or are you going to take advantage of the relationship? Right? Are people who are buying when you're negotiating, okay, for the price, are they going to take advantage? So there'll be those types of things. The I is concerned about not being liked, right? And this is to your benefit, okay, because you want to demonstrate that you like them, but in the same regards, they might volunteer to do certain things because they want to be liked. It might be a little easier to get them to negotiate as far as the price of the home as well too, because they want to actually please you. Okay, what about the S? They primarily fear security and a lack of respect. So you need to make sure that you demonstrate respect to them as an individual, all right, at the listing table. And the C's, criticism of their work, right? So if they come up with details or they come up with information, you might differ from them. That's fine. Present your perspective, but make sure that you spend time on focusing, in on what your perception is and their perception. Both are fine. Now, what stresses them out, or how do they deal with stress? Well, these look for blame. So don't be surprised if you have a D if they're blaming you for all different types of things after you get the listing, all right? Or all types of things regarding your listing presentation. Just grin and bear it. It's just what they do. Right? What will happen is under stress is the I's are going to self-promote. They're going to tell you, how much they've invested in the house or who they know, or different things to self-promote. The S is going to withdraw inwardly, and the C is going to become picky and pessimistic, and they're going to be critical of what is going on or of the presentation itself, the listing presentation. There might be some things in there they didn't like or some things that they think are inaccurate. It's okay. Let it go, all right? Just listen, and then move on to something else. The last slide, and again, I'm going through these really quickly because I want to give a framework for really, the bread and butter of what we're about in the session today, and that is how to actually use it in the listing presentation. All right? What's their conflict response? The D typically fights back, all right? The I is going to run for shelter or is going to run psychologically, and they'll change the subject to something else, all right? The S is going to withdraw and become more internalized. One of the issues with the S is you need to ask them how are they feeling or what's going on. If you feel all of a sudden even the nonverbals you were picking up seem to disappear, okay? And the C is going to avoid the conflict. We'll get into the data again. And finally, and this is really important, not like the other stuff wasn't, but this is easy to remember. What is their emotion? D is going to focus on anger. So they're going to express that anger. The I is going to focus on optimism. The S is going to be hard to read their emotions. And C is going to have a fear that you're not going to be able to sell the house, okay, or there's going to be some other problem or issue going on. Right, so this gives you an overview of how to identify the different styles and gives you some insights regarding what you can do at the closing table regarding, specifics, with that and how you can effectively use that. At this point, Don, I'm going to turn it back to you, right? And then let's go to the bread and butter and let's look at some listing presentations and get some specific, day-to-day type of example.
That's perfect, Michael. Thank you. We might the microphone up for a second. So we did have a question about what questions should we be asking. Polly, we're going to be answering that. We're going to get into that.
Hey, Michael, you need to mute your mic when you're not presenting because otherwise we get feedback.
Okay, bye-bye.
You'll be right back.
And then just use the number 1 key if
exactly.
you want to interrupt.
Yeah, so.
My key's coming out. I'm sorry. Bye.
Nice. So main thing is we want to make sure, Polly, to your answer, we're going to get through that. We want to get through that in the context of marketing and then these 2 presentations. So yes, and you're going to hold us accountable to getting that question answered. Okay, Polly? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really want to make sure we get to that. Okay, so we're going to get to Shannon Pyatt, and as I mentioned, Shannon was the winner of Glenn's. He's Moneybags. We call him Moneybags because last year he won $5,000 for this being the best listing presentation. What an amazing contest it was! Lots of people poured in some great stuff, and this was the one that was the winner. And Shannon, you've got you're a coach. You've been doing success for a long time, and when we looked at your presentation, it was clear that it aims a certain direction, and we want to kind of use that and then contrast that with Allison. So I'd love to have you go through the short version. Obviously, we're not sitting with a client. We're not going to be, asking a lot of questions, but I'd like you to kind of walk through the thought process behind what you're doing. And then we'll kind of open it up for a second and bring Allison back up, and then we'll go from there.
Okay, absolutely. Well, Don, thank you so much. Dr. A, incredible stuff, sir. Just absolutely incredible stuff. And, I feel very privileged and very blessed to be on the stage with these guys. Like Don said, we met each other about a year ago. What's funny is I've been in the business now going on 20 years. And, back when his company was really big, Don, you made money off of me years ago. So it feels.
And I appreciate that so much. I appreciate that so much, more than you know. Today I'm sitting looking at the beach in Puerto Rico and still spending your money, Shannon.
Yeah, exactly. But honestly, just to be on stage with these guys and to now consider them to be friends of mine, I'm just truly humbled. So thank you, guys. I'm truly humbled the fact that I won this listing presentation. There are so many incredible agents in this company. I mean, we have the best of the best of the best. And if we want to open it up for a big round of applause, there is a huge, I'm telling you guys, we've got the best agents on the planet, okay? The best agents on the planet. In this company. Yes. And I'm just humbled the fact that my presentation, little old North Carolina country boy, was chosen. So, all right, let's go ahead and dive in. I'm going to go ahead and share a little bit about my presentation with you. I won't take up a whole lot of your time, but I do want to kind of explain what I do when I sit down with a seller. And if anybody's got anything that they want to chime in on, Don, Dr. A, Allison, please feel free to chime in as I go. Really, guys, the presentation is not just the presentation. It's the questions you ask prior to the presentation. And it's the buy-ins that you get along the way, right? So as I'm on the phone with people, I've already had them buy in 5, 6, 7 different times before I even meet with them. And that's really the key. You've got to ask them questions like, can you see how this would get your home sold? Can you see how this would help you? Can you see how I can achieve the goals that you're looking for? And as you're doing that, they're saying yes, 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 yes. This is before you've ever even met them. And the most important thing for me that I do at the very end of the call is right before we get ready to hang up, I say, oh, gosh, by the way, I forgot. Would you do me a favor? Would you step outside and take a photo of your house and text message that to my number right now? I just need you to text message it over, because when I get there, I'm going to show you what your house looks like in marketing, not some generic property. And that's the key. You've got to make it about them. And I think that's where the disc comes in. I really do. So just to give you an example, this is one of my most recent listings. I have it on here. I tell them, hey, look, just don't put it on the MLS, get it marketed and get it sold, right? Now, I talk about the importance of professional HD photos, 3D tours, 3D Matterport tours, virtual tours, things of that nature. Now, obviously, you can't have a 3D Matterport done of a property that you haven't listed, right? But you show them the examples of what that looks like. Now, the next thing that I do, and I actually do this through a company called Listings to Leads. If you guys have heard of them, I think they're an incredible company. But they build out all of this material. So I tell the seller, hey, look, I've created a custom website directly for your house before we've ever even listed it. As a matter of fact, I even have them click on the sample. It automatically takes them directly to the property. And I say, look, we've already done this for you. This is a photo that you sent to me from your phone, and I'm already collecting buyers for you for this home, and I don't have your home listed. So again, these are just little things, small things that you can do that can really, really make a big difference in the grand scheme of things, okay? The next thing that I go to is I talk about the mobile marketing. I actually physically have the seller take their phone out right then and there at the table, and I have them text message the rider. A lot of times I'll take the rider with me, okay? I'll actually have a physical sign rider that has that telephone number on it, and I will hand it to them, and I'll say, do me a favor, be the buyer for a moment. Text message this. They'll text it. They get their information. It's pretty neat. Then I take it a step further and I show them the power of AI technology. Now, AI technology, again, all this is done within that platform I was talking about. And if you need more information on that, reach out to me on Workplace. I can get you hooked up with it. That's not a problem. But anyway, I have them call or text message this 800 number, put in this code. What happens? It carries on a conversation with them. It says, hi, nice to meet you here. Can I get your email address? And it gives their email address. They give their email address, and it says, great, are you a buyer or a seller? Are you thinking of selling a home? Or are you looking to buy a home? Are you curious about the market cost? All this different stuff. And so it goes through an entire series of questions, about 8 or 10 different questions. So when the lead comes to me as the buyer, as the listing agent, I have their name, their phone number, their email address, their mailing address, everything right there at the tip of my fingertips. And so I actually physically have the seller do that. While it's happening, my phone's going off. I'm taking my phone and I'm holding it up in front of the seller saying, see here, Mr. Seller, I'm getting a lead on your property right now, and I don't even have it listed. And by the way, I keep using that phrase. I don't have it listed, so I can't continue to market it. That you want to get that ingrained in their brain, is that I don't have it listed. I can't continue to market it, right? Because you want them to understand they can't do this without you. Okay. The next thing I talk about is agent attraction, and I don't mean EXP agent attraction. I actually mean reverse prospecting. This is a tool that's available through all actually do it. Why? It's very simple. Agents want one button that they can click that's going to email everybody or that's going to text message everybody. They do not want to pick up the phone and make the calls one by one by one. It's a fact. It's the world we live in. I do it. It's something I use against other agents. Broadcasting your property, I let them know, hey, it's all over. We're going to be all over Google. We're going to be all over Zillow. We're going to be everywhere. 95% of home buyers start their search online. That's why we're going to be totally optimized for Google. We're going to have your keywords. We're going to have your beta tags. We're going to have your SEO all done for you. All right. The next thing I show them is, look, hey, you know, the number one search engine in the world is Google. We all know that. But what we don't know, or most people don't know, is that the number two search engine in the world is YouTube. Okay? Because YouTube powers Google because it's owned by Google. So what do? I click on the See Sample button. I say, look, right here you go. I don't even have your home listed, but a 5-bedroom home for sale in Statesville, North Carolina. If you type that in, right now, we're sitting at number one with your property. And then again, I go back to that same phrase of, I'm not going to be able to do this if I don't have your home listed. So please understand the importance of that. All right. Then we're going to talk a little bit about social media. I tell them the power of Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, so many other social medias out there. You've got to have a stronghold in social media. And if you do, you can advertise the property effectively. Now, this here, I think, is really what kind of put me over the edge with winning this listing presentation and with actually winning about 98, 99% of the listings that I go on. Is one day I was sick. My wife and I were sitting on the couch, and The Price is Right came on. And I looked over at her and I said, that's it. We're going to start a Home Price is Right competition. She said, what are you talking about? I said, before the home goes on the market, we get the professional photos done. 48 hours before it goes live, we are actually going to have people start guessing the price of this home. The person that guesses the closest without going over wins whatever. I started off with $10 Amazon gift cards. Now I'm giving away 8-day, 7-night vacations to Mexico. You can do whatever you want to give away. You can make it as big or as small as you want. But I'm going to tell you right now that this right here will cause your listing to go viral literally before you ever even have it on the market. It's super, super powerful. All right, this next thing here, I tell them, I say, okay, down the next thing we're going to do, we're going to talk a little bit about the power of EXP. Now, EXP is a worldwide platform. We are not one small brokerage. We're not going to have a caravan. Here's what I can do. I can go into my EXP world. I can hold a private meeting for thousands of agents, just like we're doing right now with shareholders. And I can share your listing in front of thousands of agents. And maybe someone in California has a buyer. Maybe someone in Florida has a buyer. And so then I play this video.
A world once disconnected by distance. From impossible to possible. The elite. Now the common. The lonely. Now united. Now imagine a world created for connection. Welcome to our world. EXP World.
Welcome to EXP World.
EXP, created for connection.
And as soon as that video's over, I sit there and I tell them, I say, look, can you see how I could reach tens of thousands of buyers all across the entire country, across the world for your home? And they love it. Yes. The next thing I do is I talk a little bit about KV Core. I talk about how we're going to email a just listed announcement. I've got over 5,000 people in my KV Core. I can go in literally with the click of one button and I can email all 5,000 people that new listing right away. I talk about the power of hiring a negotiator. I talk about a win-win strategy, right? Then I tell them, I say, okay, now don't just take my word for it, but I want you to listen to this video right here because this is my satisfied sellers.
Our experience with Shannon was remarkably effective. We had really good communication all through the process, and we really appreciate the professionalism.
They've helped us through everything you can imagine.
His marketing plan, superb. We had so many showings. We had so much interest.
I have my house on the market for sale by owner, and after the first day of hiring Shannon, the house went under contract for full asking price.
He has a multitude of things available to help sell your house.
He has an amazing marketing strategy that I'd never seen before.
He sold the unsellable no garage house in Huntersville.
Shannon did a great job. His marketing strategies are above and beyond everyone else that we came in contact with. He did a super job on coming soon before the house was put on the market. We had a contract in 14 days.
With his marketing and just the way that he goes business, we couldn't have asked for a better experience and a better realtor to represent us.
He has a technology, is the way he uses and markets our houses, and it was fabulous. We've told lots of people about it, but I felt like I wanted to make this video and let everybody know.
We were trying to sell our house by owner and tried that for 2 or 3 months, and it was just mainly a big hassle for us trying to get people to come and look at the house and someone to show up, and finally we just threw our hands up and we hired Shannon Pyatt to sell our house, and had a great relationship.
Shannon, I appreciate you helping us get our house sold. I know I was going to try to sell the house on my own. I realized quickly that having a good realtor is the best way to
go. He's a go-getter. He's very internet savvy. He's a marketing genius, in my opinion.
This has been such a great experience working with Pyatt Realty and Shannon. It's really been a blessing for our family. This is our first home. It's been a very smooth process.
We had a great experience with Shannon Pyatt Realty, and Dream Homes. Did a great job contracting with our house, selling it promptly. They have a great team they work with.
He went out of his way to make sure that everything was taken care of very quickly and as inexpensively as possible.
It's actually been a really quick process. We've looked at just a few houses. Shannon has been awesome, available, responsive.
So Shannon, thank you. We are on our way back to West Virginia. Hallelujah.
And we just want to say thank you to Shannon and Donna for all your hard work.
Thank you. Highly recommend.
I would recommend it to anybody that's ready to sell or purchase a home.
Couldn't have done it without you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you again, Shannon.
Thanks, Shannon.
Got a really personal, family kind of experience from that company, and we've certainly used them again and recommend them to anybody in the future.
Super happy about the way the whole thing worked out.
Thanks, Shannon. It was a breeze. It was a smooth process, and we just want to thank you.
You, Shannon, well worth your time, and he's a great guy. Awesome realtor. Love you, Shannon.
Hope you guys have a great day. If you need to sell a house, use Shannon Pyatt.
If he can sell my house, he can sell your house.
And so basically, I just have them go through, watch that video. That's social proof. That's right away. They can look at it and tell that people were, pleased. It's one thing for people to see it on paper or see it on a website. It's another thing whenever they're listening to the video and listening to people talk. Then, of course, we talk about pricing the home. And so what I'll tell them a lot of times is right here. I'll say, okay, now let me ask you this. Do you believe that all my marketing can get your home sold? And they say, oh, yeah, definitely. I believe so. I say, fantastic. Then all we got to do is agree on a price and we can get you started today. How does that sound? And they say, fantastic. And there you go. And I thank them for their time. And then, of course, if they want to download my business card, I have them click on that. They can go right over. And I have a virtual business card right here that they can download right away and has all of my information on it. So that's pretty much my my listing presentation. That's what I do. So now we'll turn it back over to Mr. Don Hobbs.
Hey, Shannon, that's awesome. Really, really well done. Did you catch the, so let me say, really well done, but did you catch the deep comment? Okay, we got it. Well, let's move on. There were a couple people that were high Ds that were going, come on, man, let's get out of the video. We're good. We got this. So
okay. No, I didn't see. I couldn't see it. All I could see was my screen.
It's comical to watch the styles, the behavioral styles right in the room. Shannon, excellent. I can see why you did so well last year with the contest. I love the presentation. So Michael, let's talk quickly about this. You've seen the actual. I mean, you've seen this now. Who's it appealing to? Where's the biggest appeals? And clearly, we hadn't seen the video. You and I hadn't seen the video before, so that opens up a different part. But primarily, talk to us about where this thing really is appealing.
Well, it's interesting. I mean, as the intensity myself, I'm sitting there. Okay, I don't have to listen to 30 testimonials. As far as presentation, so that particular thing's going to turn off a D. Okay, but it's going to turn on an S because of the warmth and those types of things, which is an interesting dimension. One of the things that we need to talk about, we haven't, is you're going to have many times you're going to have two people at that table and they might have different behavioral styles. So how do you deal with that? But anyhow, one of the things also that goes with what's that?
So sorry, I'm interrupting. I want to get to that, but I want to leave that till the Q&A time at the end.
Sure.
Because I definitely want to deal with that. I think that's really a big part of our meeting today.
Absolutely. The other thing is it's somewhat dark, so it's going to turn off. It's going to turn off an eye a little bit because it's not. It's not. It's not more colorful as far as what is shown, and because all the backdrop and a lot of it is in the black, okay, or dark. As far as the pictures are concerned, I think it's brilliant. Shannon, that you get them to send you a picture of their house and you put that right in there, and then you use that picture in several different ways. And what's going to happen is the D is going to like that for sure for a number of reasons. The I is going to like it because you make them feel good about their house. The S is going to like it because of the warmth that you really care about them. And the C is going to want to know, well, how's that going to help me sell the house? But it's kind of interesting. So those are just things that come right off the top, when I look at the presentation as far as response. Now, if there's some specific questions, because I could just go on and on for 15 or 20 minutes more, but I don't want to monopolize it. So if there's any particular questions, let's go that direction.
Yeah, we've been tracking a bunch of them, and we'll have several questions. Shannon, would you also refresh Allison's presentation before I bring her up? And then I just want to handle a couple things real quickly, and that is somebody's asking here, should your presentation cover all disc, all four categories? And the answer is really we want to share with you how to ask questions in advance so that we can get information about who we're going to be presenting to. So you're going to see how you can adjust your presentation and adjust the things you do from a marketing, pre-marketing, and of course the presentation itself, and even a follow-up, should there be any follow-up, meaning if Shannon didn't get that on a one-stop shop, they're going to interview somebody tomorrow, we want to make sure that we're doing something that's going to be the right follow-through after the fact. So all of that we're going to get into before we finish.
Exactly, Don. If I can chime in.
Of course.
When I am sitting at the table with a D personality and I know it's a D personality, I'm going to play the first 20 seconds of that video, and that's it. Like I play like the very beginning. I say, here's just a couple of people, just so you can see, just enough for them to get it, and I move on, right? Because I know that they're going to glaze over after about a minute of that.
And that's the perfect example of how you develop the presentation, and you use that part of your presentation that most closely matches the individual that's sitting at the table with you.
Right, which is the whole purpose of it being at the end. If you notice, the videos are at the very end of the presentation. That's because by the time that I've gotten through the presentation, I realize what kind of person I'm sitting there with. And if it's an S, it's going to run the whole time. If it's a D, 20, 30 seconds, they get the gist, we're out.
Absolutely. And of course, you can always say, hey, by the way, I've got lots more where that came from. Happy to share it with you, but I just don't want to take all of our time tonight talking about me. This is about you, right? I mean, whatever. We can go through all that. So I want to bring up Allison to go through a little bit of her experience because, you know, she's been doing this. Shannon, you've got 20 years in. She's at 16, I believe. And she's got a large group in EXP that, you know, is a big part of her expansion, if you will. But she's very good at working with people. And by the way, it plays out really well in our group, in our organization, but it plays out very well with her clients. So she's got her presentation here, and I'm going to turn it over to, by the way, I want to give you just a little insight because one of the things, aside from, you know, being in love with her and thinking she's beautiful and amazing and all that, she did attend a producer's school, and that was with the George Lucas, Steven Spielberg University at USC, their college for film. And what that has to do with is the marketing thoughts, the video thoughts, that kind of stuff that really gets into how people react. And of course, selling movies is very much about getting to the right personality and making sure you're appealing to age groups and all of that. So Allison, I'm going to turn it over to you and say, go for it.
Awesome. One of the things I was going to say is exactly what you got to, Shannon, because I saw the D's driving and saying, let's get on with it. And, you know, from my experience going into a listing appointment, when you've got a T and an I at the table, it becomes very conversational, and they'll usually just ask you all the questions. You'll end up going through the listing presentation in a conversation, and I'll sometimes just, like Shannon said, just go through maybe some high points to use it as a visual reference, and then even leave it behind, right? And then when you have an SC, and I'll give you an example of a C personality I'm actually working with right now. He's a technical engineer, and I have actually never in my life I just love this. I love this couple, and full of questions. So before we went and looked at the last house where they put an offer in, I got the president of the HOA of the neighborhood on the phone and a president from the builders company, the consulting company that consults with the neighborhood. We spent 2 hours on the phone before we went to look at the house. And so that'd be an example of just, you know, really understanding when those of you that work with engineers, you know, what you get when you get to that. So Shannon, I'm going to go through my, just for sake of getting to questions, I'm just going to flip through mine. My presentation tends to be a little bit more, like Don said, on the visual side, probably more appealing to an eye aesthetically, you know, just kind of more the fluffy. You can go forward on that one, Shannon. That's blank.
There you go.
There we go. So this is my downtown marketing piece, but it really has a lot. I mean, if you look at the visuals of appealing to maybe a D or an I, just quickly it connects. If somebody wants to read, you know, I feel like that's somebody who really wants to dig in and know a lot more, but you really get a sense of who I am and connecting with the client from a marketing perspective before they get to know me, you know, in that way. And Michael, you can comment. I tend to think that the D's and the I's are going to be more connected to the visuals because it's kind of a quick, fast impression. And then the words and the, you know, even the testimonials and such would be more of an SC type of appeal. What would you say about that?
No, I would agree. And I'm looking at this picture, you know, and I'm not going to even read words. Okay.
Yep, absolutely. Okay, Shannon, you can just go. And honestly, you can just kind of.
And what's going to happen? The eyes are going to look at you and say, "Man, you're looking good, lady." And if it's a girl, you know, a woman, they're going to ask you something about what you've done in the picture. You know, so because they want to connect with you in that way.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so this is my presentation, and it's also geared more towards luxury. So again, more aesthetic, more representing the brand. This is an example of a listing presentation I put together for this property. There's the picture of their home. You can just keep, yeah, there you go. Keep going. Next slide. Great. So again, for people that want to read SCs, I don't go through this, but I just say, hey, here's a little bit about me. You've already gotten to know me, especially if it's a DI, right? But I let them know. I really go through and just let them know that this is here, point out testimonials, etc. Next slide. Great. So here's some, proof listings sold, other listings in the area, other listings we've sold before I get to, comparable sales. So just letting them know these are the homes that I've worked with in your area so they can get a feel for that. Next slide. Building trust. This just starts to kind of get to that. Next slide. It's hard not to be able to strategic plan for selling the home. Just keep going. So this is really about plans and giving them an idea of, right, exactly. So this really sets them up for pricing, which is really important. And again, you can use this as a visual reference or really dig into, what's important about getting your home sold is pricing it right. So that sets up the conversation for, getting into comparables and figuring out what the price will be, and the importance of that. Let's see, better sales price. Again, more words. That's the thing. I've never looked at my listing presentation from the perspective of the disc, but that's what I said to Dawn when we were getting ready for this. And I thought, my gosh, DIs probably never read this. It's just the representation that exists, and they're more interested in connecting and getting to know me. And then for the SCs that need more data and more words, proof in writing, then I've got that too. So I think it really rounds that out. Talking about staging. Go ahead.
Allison, I'd be delighted to go over your listing presentation with you, because I do that on a consulting basis too, but for you, obviously, it's going to be free. So, so there are things that for sure that can be done. I mean, this is really what you've shown us is really a pretty intense eye presentation.
I was getting that feeling when I was looking at it, absolutely, which would be reflective of me for sure, right? So probably need more data if I'm gonna dig into different personality types, different profile. Shannon, you can kind of just click through now. I'll just hit the high points. I'm a high ID, Polly. So custom website, letting them know, look, exactly like Michael did, Shannon did, we've got a custom website for your home. This is super important. This is how we market it. We can show statistics of how many views and all of that. Go ahead. Photo tours is important. We create panoramic 3D videos and such for marketing. This really gets into the marketing. Basically just, building the story, how we're going to sell the house, how we're different, setting us apart. Next. Print advertising, another example of how we're going to market the house different, how we're going to present it so they know aesthetically, how it's going to be showcased out there. Next. There we go. Social media marketing, and I think we can just skip to the end. I don't want to be redundant, and I'd like to get into the disc profile. So let's. You guys have a great idea of that, and yep, using the highest technology. And then there's a thank you. Shows our team. Yep. And then there's a thank you on the end. So like I said, I really use this to leave behind, to send them. Sometimes I said it before. But I really get to know my clients. A lot of them are referrals. So.
Yeah, perfect. So, and a lot of that, by the way, the marketing pieces, thinking about this, one of the things that you want to consider is how do you adapt this? By the way, Shannon, if you didn't see that, we took a couple of the slides from what you were going to show and put those into Allison's only to give it the contrast, because I think what you said, Michael, is really important for us to get, is that the same slide, same offering, same everything, except that it's got a very different appeal. And so that's where it really comes down to, who am I speaking for, who am I going to meet, and how do I deal with that? And Michael, before we go on, why don't you do it, if we can do this quickly, otherwise we'll do it at the end. But you might want to talk about how does this work where, I I look at Allison's brochure, for example, and I see it's got, you know, the strong appeal for the Ds, the Is. I've always said the Ds aren't going to read that stuff. They go, I'm not going to read all this crap. That's not going to happen. But they also have an impression made, right? Oh, wow, this is cool stuff. Then you've got the S's and the C's who want to really move into it and really feel it and see the presentation. In fact, on my marketing part, I'm going to show a little bit more about where you can really appeal to that. But talk, Michael, about what happens when we've got the D and the S in the room. You know, the sellers are a couple that are D and S or a D and a C. What do we do with that?
Well, let me talk about a couple things. One of them is my recommendation, Allison, would be for you to have some tables, you know, as far as your production over the last couple years. All right. You know, and not a lot of numbers, but some numbers and some tables. The D's and the C's will love that, especially the D's if you're upper end because of the status issue that comes with the D's. Now, when you have the D and the S at the same table, it's kind of interesting. I mean, Shannon, in our conversation, but you know, before, I mean, a comment that you made that really hit me was, in most cases, it's going to be the D who's in control of things. You know, when you see that, so you cater to the D. Now, when you see the D and the S, and this is probably going to, almost everybody in this room has seen this in a relationship, if you're married with someone of the opposite sex. Okay, what'll happen is somebody will focus on one gender and not the other. Okay, what you want to do is when you're talking to the D, if the D is a man, okay, you use D type language. If the D is the S, you use the S type language. When you're talking to the woman, if she's a D, you use D type language to her. When you're talking, if she's the S, you use the S type language to her. You know, so you can take the same slide or the same information in sometimes and just the way you communicate it or the words that you use in relationship to it make all the difference in the world. I mean, what you want to do obviously is you want to have a connection. You want them to feel comfortable with you, so they want to list with you because they have confidence and trust that you're going to be able to deliver. If they're a D, you're going to make them as much money as possible. If you're a C, you're going to help them better understand what the neighborhood is or specifics about the home or some other aspect about the selling process. I mean, if somebody is a C, you know, you can tell them about it. Let me give you an idea of what the selling process is like. Oh, really? Oh, that would be cool. You know, if you're a Mike Furriite, right, you're in and out of there in 15 or 20 minutes. You don't spend your time on that. But if you want to connect with them, then you have to connect with the way they are. Mike is an intense D, so he thinks everybody else is a D like him. So that would work with an intense D. But it doesn't work when you have people, you know, of other types of behavioral styles, especially in the same room. Right? I'm sorry. Go ahead, Don. Let me hand it back to you.
Yeah, I was just going to say, Michael, I saw someone ask a question, you know, how do I know, and correct me if I'm wrong, but, you know, I've been studying DISC back in KW for those of you guys that were there in Bold. And I feel like for me, understanding the profiles help you identify real quickly. Someone asked if you know, do you give a test or do you ask questions? It's really identifying them quickly based on their conversation and their behavior patterns and being able to respond in the moment, and being familiar with this will help you do that. So Michael, do you want to expand on that?
Sure, absolutely. And for those of you who were here that were in the previous session, okay, you know, we talked about that in relationship to stress, right? What you can do is you can go back and look at those slides that I shared at the beginning of this presentation, because there's all kinds of hints regarding what their style is. I mean, how are they talking to you? How lengthy are their emails? What are their emails like? Okay, you know, what questions do they ask of you, right? What are their expectations that you would ask of them? All right, so there are things like that you can look at, and the more they're a particular style type answer, okay, the more you can have confidence that they are that particular style. Let me talk about the combination aspect, because that's really crucial. And I want you to, if you have a piece of paper, okay, I want you to draw a circle. And on the top of the circle, I want you to put task oriented. On the bottom of the circle, I want you to put people oriented. On the right side of the circle, I want you to put external focus. And on the left side of the circle, I want you to put an internal focus. All right. And then draw those 4 quadrants. All right. Just put a line straight down and a line through the center, okay? And the D is going to be task oriented with an external focus. They're competitive, all right? They want to be financially secure, all right? They're going to get angry with you. They're external, all right? If they're from 3 o'clock to 6 o'clock on that wheel and they have a people orientation and they look outside themselves, all right, they're an I, right? They like to talk, they like to interact. That's really important to them. If they're from 6 o'clock to 9 o'clock on that wheel, what happens is they have a people orientation, but an internal focus. So they're more concerned about family, they're more concerned about respect and how you treat them. And if they're from 9 o'clock to 12 o'clock, right, they have an internal focus, but they're task oriented. So they're pretty heady, right? So they're interested in data, they're interested in quality of what it is, okay? And you can use that as a framework to figure out what's going on. Now, how this helps even more is, let's say you've got a D and an S at the table. Hey, they're pretty different now, aren't they? Right? One's task oriented with an external focus, one's people oriented with an internal focus, right? So you've got to look at the person and talk to them how they want to be talked to and what they buy into, right? If you have an I and a C at the table, right, you've got somebody who's data driven and somebody who can't stand the data. I mean, most of the top producers that I talk to, if you ask them how many sides they've closed this year, they look at you with glazed over, you know. But if you ask them about who are some of the people they listed or sold for, they'll give you a long list of names. Okay, so you need to keep those things in mind when you're interacting with them, and especially when you get to where you have two different people at the table. If you have a D and a C at the table, task oriented, talk to both of them. They're going to love you. If you have an I and an S, people oriented. So you want to talk to them with that frame. So that gives you an idea. If you have a D and an I, they have an external focus. So they want to know about, you know, how are you going to market this? You know, those types of things. How much money are we going to make? You know, how many people are going to come and look at my house? You know, things of that nature. If they're an S and a C, they have more of an internal focus. So they're going to be interested in those types of things. Is that making sense?
Yes, I think it does. And Michael, you know, one of the things that I've noticed also is that, you know, one of the best ways to tell, especially in a listing presentation, is when I get to the listing presentation and I shake their hand and I meet them, I set my stuff down and I immediately say, okay, who's going to give me the tour? Not always, but I would say 90% of the time, the one that gives me the tour is the bigger decision maker.
And that makes a lot of sense to me, okay? Because you can have an intense S who's going to be the decision maker above an intense D, because that's not what they focus on. Now, unfortunately, if you have an intense S or an intense C of this decision maker, the decisions are long and they take a while to close.
Hey, Shannon, maybe you can put up Dr. Abelson's original slide with the breakdown of the personalities, because some of the people in the audience were asking to see that.
Which one was that? The first one, the first set of slides?
Yeah, I think Dr. Abelson, you had those on there, right? Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, but I have like 7 different slides, and I did that so people could see it, you know, when they zoom into the stage. So the issue is it's kind of now.
Hey, so Michael, let's see if we can give them. I love the wheel that you just gave them, and I know that I've seen that related to you. We can give that maybe an address and go to your website and get that. I want to make sure that we leave some time for questions, and we're starting to close in on our finishing time. So I want to make sure we have some time here. And Shannon, do you have, I see that you've got Michael's up there. Can you just do a quick refresh on mine and then put those up there real quick?
And then if you guys have questions, if you guys don't know about the number 1 key, just hold down the number 1 key, talk, and then let that go. It'll just open up the mic and close it again so that you can more easily ask questions and communicate.
And if anybody wants any of this stuff from me, my email is dr.a@abelson.net. Okay, so just email me. I'll be delighted to email you back. Even if all 250 people do it, you'll get emails back.
Go ahead.
Okay, Michael, sorry, I got a little lost. So let's talk about this disc thing, because my forte for many years, and I have some long-standing clients in the room, which is really exciting, and good friends. My background was always marketing, and so Michael, you and I have known each other for a long time. You were the disc guy, we were the marketing guys, and we peacefully coexisted for many years. So I want to make sure that kind of we look at this from a marketing perspective as well, because when I think of marketing, like we did a session, the Excel series last week, and we were talking about marketing and having an avatar, knowing who you're going for. I heard Nolly Williams today talk about having a niche market. So that's a really important thing. But when you're actually ready to win the listing, it's a different story, because your general avatar, your general niche, it's a demographic or a geographic, that's wonderful. That's how you attract people to call you. But now we're talking about winning the actual listing itself. And that's why what Allison and what Shannon have gone through is so important. But I want you to go now to the marketing side, which is, how do you think through the pre-listing conversation to get information that is going to help you? What do you send in the pre-listing package if you have one? Which, by the way, the brochure that you saw of Allison's, what I'm going to show you again in a few minutes, is part of that pre-listing package. So they get to read and go, wow, I really like her style, I really like who she is. The D's are going to go, looks good. I mean, she looks like a pro. They're not going to read it, right? But we're going to have an impact before we actually get there. So again, those things are going to be good. The things that you should include in letters, online, emails, text, anything that you're interacting before you actually arrive. And of course, how you're going to adjust your listing presentation, meaning literally we were making changes to this to match Shannon's, to say, here's just a different style of Shannon's presentation in essence, because if we knew we were going to see somebody who was really oriented a certain direction, we want to make sure that we either change the slides or let the slides represent the conversation, which is changing. And then of course, ultimately the elements that you're going to highlight during the presentation. So when I look at marketing materials and I think of, okay, yeah, this is how you attract clients and listed and solds and all that stuff. Shannon, just go ahead and click. I'll stop you here quickly because it won't take long before I want to. Hello? There we go. So again, a tool like this is very powerful. Think about the tools, and I want you guys to hear this. Having tools is having options. You try and build a house, you don't have but a screwdriver and a saw, you got no chance, right? But the more tools you've got, the more things you can do, the more things you can present, the more things you can bring, the more visuals you have, the more things you do. So Shannon, yeah, go ahead and click through. Yep. So again, notice what you're looking like. And again, these are going to have appeal to mass people, but then you're going to take your presentation in with this postcard or a flyer or something like that, where now I'm going to be able to lay that stuff into my presentations or bring them things, leave behinds, any of that's going to be powerful as well. Go ahead, Shannon. I can't talk and tell you to move forward at the same time. Yeah, go ahead and click to the next one. Yeah, so we've got a lot of cool stuff related to marketing and how marketing applies to all these things. Stop right there for a quick second, Shannon, would you? And they're all at on our Facebook group, which is actually called Expert Partners. Love you to go in there. It's free. We've got all kinds of cool stuff in there. Lots of presentations. And by the way, I'm going to give you access to what somebody was asking earlier. Michael, I think it was in your presentation, which was, about making the selections of niche and that kind of thing. So I'm going to give you lots of stuff that's going to be given to you free. If you go there, I'm going to give you one other site to go to. But I wanted to stop here for a second. No, go forward. Go forward. There you go. On this offer, this is one of Allison's marketing brochures, and you'll see that in the middle of it there's an outline of her altruistic work, which is giving 5% of commission to Austin Angels, or by the way, the local charity of the client's choice. Michael, where's that kind of a thing appealing? Because today we're in a place where social consciousness and a lot of giving, social giving is happening through marketing these days. Who's that appealing to, and where does that really fit in our thoughts?
There's two aspects, okay? One of them is behaviorally, that's going to appeal more to the S, okay? But there's another set, and this is when I said that the DISC is not a personality profile, it's a behavior profile. There's another aspect of us, it's called motives and values. And there are some people who are very socialistic, or they're very they're like Mother Teresa, where what they do is they will give to other charities, or they give to other people. They're selfless, right? So, like for example, in KW, the selfless person is Mo Anderson, okay, and she created and set the culture in KW for years until it was changed. But anyhow, so we have that type of thing. So there's behaviors and motives. Again, the S is more out of the 4 styles is going to be the most for that. But also we have this notion of social, which is one of 6 different motives that we also look at.
That's awesome. I said I clicked myself off. Shannon, let's go forward. I'm going to click through these pretty quick. So I got threw this one in here for you, Michael. This is watch the sparks fly, and this has to do with another piece. But I wanted you to comment on when you have things that are dynamic like that, when you have things that are dramatic and dynamic, who are we appealing to?
D's in the eyes.
Yeah, absolutely.
That picture is definitely a D in the eye.
By the way,
not an S.
She's a high DI, by the way. Absolutely. Yeah, no doubt. Shannon, keep going. I just wanted to stop there for a quick. I threw that in from Michael this morning. So I want to talk about this because the reviews are an interesting thing. I'm talking about marketing and how it appeals. Again, having a review site, having a link to review sites, having some of your reviews. You saw some of the testimonials in Allison's. Those are very powerful. But Michael, for whom? Who are they powerful for? Who's looking at reviews? Who's looking for that proof, if you will?
For different reasons, different styles. Okay, the I is going to look to see if they know anybody that's on your list. Okay, the D is going to look to see if they're power people. Okay, the S is going to be concerned about it because it demonstrates family. Depends on who you have that you have down there. Again, the C is not going to care.
I love that. By the way, for all of you, I would highly recommend that you get to 100 reviews as fast as you possibly can in a multitude of sites. And you can, by the way, get that done fairly easy, much easier than you think you can, by having people write and then cut and paste that same one in several places. So make sure that you've got all of your different locations where people are coming through to meet you. And make sure, by the way, I love to have people, I get asked all the time, hey, we want to send you a great testimonial. Thanks for being here for speaking engagement, blah, blah, blah. Well, that's great. By the way, or I might even ask, I might say, hey, I'd love to have something from you, from the head of your company, from you on what I just did. And they very often will say, why don't you just write it and tell us what you want? Well, I love that, of course, because I like to think in terms of writing things that are for appealing to different needs. So again, if you're looking at your testimonials, you want to put a balanced group of testimonials, for example, on your website or in your presentation. You might actually have a high D, a high I, a high S, and a high C type review, right, or testimonial. So again, those are very easy to do. Shannon, go ahead. We're going to basically sprint through the rest of these. Yeah, so we can move through that. Somebody said their screen froze and they can't access the slides. So I think if you do a refresh, you might have some luck with that. I talked about handwritten notes, Michael, and again, if I left the presentation, whether I'm getting the listing or not, and again, I might have walked out with it that night. I mean, let's face it, it might be just that they're just so overwhelmed and they go, yeah, you're by far the winner. But if they don't, and I'm sending them something, or whether they, have to go through 3 more interviews, I'm going to send them a handwritten note. What am I saying to the D? What am I saying to the I? What am I saying to the S? And what am I saying to the C? Very briefly, like, what's the point?
Well, what you're going to do with the D is any note that you send will be fine. Just make it brief. And thanks a lot for your time. I know you're very busy. What are the different? So thanks a lot. The I, make it more flowery. The S, make it warmer. Okay, as far as family, it's nice having an opportunity to meet you and your spouse. And your kids are awesome. Thanks for bringing them, into the presentation for a couple of minutes. And the C is going to want to have data. What are you doing? Okay, what's next? What's the next step in the process? So notes work for all different styles, but it depends on what you want to put, what their style is as far as what you put in the notes.
Okay, cool. I appreciate that. Thanks. And Shannon, let's keep going. I want to get to one slide because it has to do with the conversations, and I want to open it up. Go ahead. Keep going. Yeah, testimonials. Go ahead. Keep going. By the way, very balanced testimonials. I brought up several of my clients who really focus on that. Stop here for a second, please. Yeah, I really like to have balanced testimonials and making sure that we publish more balance in testimonials so that there's both, by the way, looking at the DIS and C, also looking at the audio, visual, kinesthetic, and auditory people. So again, I like to make sure that there's a mixture of all those kinds of things in there. This slide really deals with kind of what we've been talking about, and that is, how do we know about my potential seller before we actually get to meet my potential seller? So, you know, where Allison knows who she's going to meet because of the questions she's asked. You know, by the way, where they live says a lot. Doesn't tell you everything, but it may say a lot. How long they've lived there says something. Michael, how long? What does how long tell you? What would you say about that?
Well, the average homeowner, I believe the statistics are something like 5.5 years in a house. So your S's are going to stay forever because they can't give up the memories. Okay, the D's are going to move around if they can make more money and be more efficient. If not, they won't do it because it takes too much time and energy to do it. The I's, they're going to look at it in relationship to the family and things of that nature. And the C's are going to be also really efficient. They're really not going to care. They can stay in the same one bedroom place for the rest of their life because that's not what's important to them. And
right.
As I'm giving these, you know, examples, okay, these are intense D's, I's, S's, or C's. Okay, so you can't just take it blanket wise. For example, out of the population, only about 7% are going to be a pure D, a pure I, a pure S, or a pure C. The other 93% are some type of combination of 2, 3, and rarely 4 of the different styles. So what we're talking about is going to help you with a number of people, but about half the population is going to be difficult for you to figure it out, okay, because they're going to be more balanced. Nothing works all the time.
No, absolutely. All we're trying to do is increase our odds and give ourselves a chance. And the more we know going in, the better it's going to be for us. Obviously, again, Allison's going to tell you. I mean, Michael, I've sat with him for many times, and he can pick up real quickly. Right? We're going to sit with people. We're going to find out more about them. But the more you know in advance, the better it's going to be, because it gives you a chance to set yourself up for success. It's a little bit like not psyching yourself into it, but really getting prepared for the presentation. So, you know, what do they do for fun? Anything, again, if you've got a high D, they're going to be off the phone with you very quickly. They're not going to give you much data. But if you've got an I, it's like, hey, the more I can find out about the spouse, the more I can find out about what they do, what they like, where they're moving. I mean, all the information I can get is going to be very helpful. So I just want to make sure that we're really thinking through the questions that we want to know. And, you know, the other thing, and Shannon, you said this the other day, what kinds of things would you like me to prepare? Or what kinds of things would you like me to address in my presentation? What kinds of things do you want to know about in my presentation, you know, in our time together, which gives you some insight as to what's going to be important to them. So again, all these things are ways that we can start to prepare ourselves for where we're headed. All right, click the next slide, Shannon, if you would. And we're going to wrap this thing up and ask some questions. So I wanted to mention this because for many of you, this crossover where Michael and I really think we've got, you know, a lot of things in common with not what we do, because what we do is very different, but the marketing and the working with these behaviors and styles is such a powerful thing. And I've dealt with that for years in marketing. So marketing is the path, by the way, for getting clients. Marketing is the path for knowing how to win the clients. And as you look at, you know, Shannon's presentation, for example, it's a great marketing presentation. I have a marketing sheet called the marketing cheat sheet, and I made it available. Just go in and click that one little place there where it has myexpertpartners.com. And we'd love to have you join our Facebook group. If you weren't, some of you were in, I know, see some of the same names were in our presentation last week, back-to-back days, Wednesday and Thursday, which, by the way, you can see those X cells in the world. But I would also urge you to join that group, and in there we're going to have we're putting in a special video that's going to be marketing based, and it's going to be called The Brand Called You. So that's going to be there waiting for everybody who joins today. And I will look forward to doing that. Let's go one more slide there, Shannon. I think there's one more. Am I wrong? That's the end. Okay, that's the end. So Michael and Shannon and Allison, let's take some Q&A and let's answer some of the questions that are in this deal. How did everybody do today? How did we do? Everybody, what'd you think? You get some...
Good job.
The eternal eye, by the way, Mike Green.
Love you guys.
Love you too, Mike. So thumbs up. We got some good stuff. Love it. Thanks for the love, guys. So talk to us about some questions you've got. And we told a couple of you to hold us accountable to the questions.
Hey guys, so let me just jump in here really quick before we jump into our Q&A. We've only got about 5 minutes left in this session. So before we wrap it up from our end, I did want to remind everyone to click on that link in the chat box and make sure to show these guys some love and submit this survey. Please let us know. I know we enjoyed it. This was a fantastic session today. Please make sure to click on that link, complete that survey. We'll go ahead and leave this room open so that you all can continue with your Q&A. We will be heading over to the convention center at 2 p.m. to get started there. So you can join us there. You can hang out here and finish your Q&A session with this amazing panel. Just didn't want to miss an opportunity to thank all of you and to remind our agents to take that survey guide. So go ahead. Sorry to interrupt.
Oh, not at all, Candace. Thank you for everything you do, my dear. You are very special, and we love all that you've brought to the organization, and I love, of course, what Curtis is doing and what we get to do with our university. So thanks for all that. Let's open it up for questions. Yeah, thank you, Shannon. Sorry, thank you, Candace. Yeah, thank you too, Shannon. So let's take some questions and any thoughts. I mean, you've got Shannon, Allison, Michael. You know, what are we missing? What do they need to know? And what questions does anybody have? If you want a free disc, Michael's offering that. Email me.
I will be offering.
My name is Don Hobbs. Thank you.
Just for a quick second here, I will be offering my my listing presentation, editable and all that stuff at a way discounted price. I normally get charged $97, but I'm going to offer a real discounted price. So anybody just message me on Workplace if you're interested in purchasing it.
Sweet.
Excellent, Shannon. So,
Shannon?
Yes. Shannon?
I'm sorry to interrupt there for a second.
But you're in charge of the question. You were supposed to remind us. So here it comes.
Okay, here's the question to Shannon. You just mentioned that we could get your particular presentation, but are you saying that you will help us customize it, or you're just going to give us your presentation, then we go from there?
It's actually my presentation with 4 different video modules that show you exactly how to break it down and how to customize it and stuff like that.
Cool.
But not using print.
What other questions do we have? Hey, Rose. Nice to see you here.
Hey, Don Hobbs, I just want to say you're awesome.
Thank you, Mike.
Someone asked about a copy of the disc slides. If you scroll up, all the links are there. They've put a copy of the presentations, a copy of the disc profile test that's more detailed from Michael's company. That's all there.
Awesome.
Will Shannon's presentation work without using listings to leads? Absolutely. I mean, again, not everybody's going to have all these tools. Of course, if you look at it and say, I really like that or like this, then, you know, why don't you put those things in there? But the reality is, yes, of course. And there's many adaptations. And listen, guys, there's so many different products that make us look good. Most of us have just never thought about how to incorporate those things into our presentation. There are a lot of things that we do for clients, but we just don't think to tell people what it is that we do. And so we don't get the credit for it, except for those people that actually choose to list their property and sell their home through us. So really important. Copy the transcript.
Well, if anybody wants that free disc, or you want anything and you can't get it within the XP, just email me, okay? And again, it's just dr.a and my last name is spelled A-B-E-L, the biblical way, ABELSON.net. And I'll get it back to you.
By the way, the question was also, thanks, Michael. The question was whose name goes on the survey. It should be under, I think it's Don Hobbs, it's me as the moderator. But you can list all of them if you want there. Just put them all. Thanks, Stephanie. I like it.
Hi, I have a question.
Nancy, what's your question?
Yeah, I've taken the disc 2 different times and it's come out very differently both times. What would be the reasoning for that?
Well, there's a couple of different possible reasons. There's over 30 different discs out there. So you may have been taking two different discs, number one. Number two, you may have been taking a terrible disc because most of them are terrible. They're not accurate, and so you wouldn't get consistency. All right. The other aspect is your behaviors change. So and because behaviors can change. So and if you want to, but anyhow, so and then contact me and I'll give you the freebie so you can look at it. Ours is without a doubt the most accurate. Ours looks at 384 different profiles. The next closest one in accuracy looks at 24 profiles. So there's a huge, huge difference. And ours is the only one that is actually compliant with Equal Employment Opportunity Law, to the best of my knowledge. Okay, which means that if you would ever get sued for hiring practices, we'll laugh them out of court.
So mine was through Keller Williams Times. Are you familiar with theirs, and what do you think of theirs?
Well, we do around 75 or 80% of all of Keller Williams. So why don't you send me your two, and we'll see if it's mine or not, because there are some other ones. A lot of people in KW use Tony Robbins's, which is a free disc, which is not very accurate because Tony gives it to you. Well, I don't want to get into that, but anyhow, ours is much more accurate than the one that you get for free. But we do most of Keller Williams.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Yeah, Nancy, I'll tell you my experience with that. I did take a free one, and I was working with a coach back when I was with KW, and they did a disc validation. And so I would recommend having it validated. It's a great exercise. And what's interesting is she had gotten to know me, and we got to one of the sections, and she says, "This is not you." And I said, "No, I'm not going to deny the test." And I went and I took another test. I think I took Michael's version. And it was dead on. So it's great to have it validated. You learn about yourself too.
Fantastic, thanks.
Other questions? Apparently we're not getting kicked out because there's nobody after us. So we get to keep talking. Keep playing. Let's go. What else?
You mentioned a Facebook page.
Yes, sir.